So let's move on to Renee Magritte. Now, to support himself, Magritte spent many years working as a commercial artist, actually not uncommon amongst the artists of the 20th century. And he was producing advertising and book designs, and this most likely shaped his fine art, which often has the abbreviated impact of advertisement. In other words, the simplification that you see in advertisement, because you need to create something that is easily read in a few seconds as someone walks past it. Now, while some French surrealists led these ostentatious lives, Magritte preferred the quiet anonymity of a middle-class existence, a life symbolized by the bowler-hatted men that often populate his pictures. He also wished to cultivate an approach that avoided the stylistic distractions of most modern painting. So he settles on a deadpan illustrative technique that clearly articulates the context of his image. There's really no confusion when it comes to Magritte, at least in terms of the visual image and the ability to read it, the legibility of the work. Repetition to him is an important strategy, informing not only his handling of motifs within individual pictures, but also encouraging him to produce multiple copies of some of his greatest works, very similar to what we saw in Dada. His interest in the idea may have come in part from Freudian psychoanalysis, shockingly enough, for which repetition is a sign of trauma. But his work in commercial art may have also played a role in prompting him to question the conventional belief in the unique original work of art. So he's basically saying, look, there is nothing original about art. And he's simply accepting it. He's not fighting against it. He's not trying to say, hey, I can come up with something original. He's going, you know what? There just isn't. And so I'm good with that. The illustrative quality of his pictures often results in a powerful paradox. We see pictures that are beautiful in their clarity and simplicity, but which also provoke unsettling thoughts, because that simplicity leaves a lot open to interpretation, and that invites our mind in. And this is the first piece we're looking at. This is actually called The Rape, and it was meant to shock and repulse. Magritte's drawing, which eventually became a painting, features a woman's head whose eyes have been replaced by breasts and whose mouth has been replaced by a pubic mound. So, this painting has been argued to represent a Freudian displacement, or an inverse displacement. On one hand, the painting depicts a female body where one expects to see a face, and on the other, the portrait masks the true object of desire. And let's keep in mind the year here. This is 1934. So we are way ahead of second wave feminism of the 1960s and 70s, and yet we are definitely dealing with feminist issues. Just bear with me, you'll see what I'm getting at. So while an anatomical surprise turns the female into a bearded lady, the articulation of the woman as genital organ makes her inarticulate, closes down all of the openings that ordinarily let the world enter the self, so that Magritte's subject seems monstrous, impenetrable. And that's really interesting. So where you would expect an opening, not only has he replaced the face, that element of expression with the body, but the opening that we would expect, the genital opening that we would expect in a female is missing. He doesn't give us the vulva or the vagina, he gives us the pubic mound, thus removing voice. And she can have no observation because she has no eyes and no ears. No way for anything to get in. No way to experience. This is woman as purely object, woman as body. And getting at that idea that women cannot have ideas, or men at the time frequently see or would get across the idea that women cannot have ideas. Instead, they focus on women as a body, not as a brain. So paradoxically, even as the piece fetishizes female sexuality, it also denies the existence of female genitalia because, of course, the pubic mound here is depicted instead of the vulva. When the female is simultaneously decapitated and recapitated by her sexual organs, the face that was supposed to be a window to the soul is nothing more than objectified sexuality that is less related to pleasure and more to dominance over the woman, who is nothing but a body. So to him, this is a violation of the woman, just like a rape. The objectification of a woman. He's getting at objectification 30 years before we're really going to see the seeds of the second wave feminist movement. And this is a male who's getting at these ideas. So it's really interesting. It's really ahead of its time when you think about it. And what starts out as this sort of horrible, vile image actually turns into a thing of protest, and arguably, at least in terms of the thoughts that it kicks off, the conversation that it kicks off, it turns into a really beautiful thing because it's really getting at this one central point. Very difficult point to make concrete, and yet Magritte has done it.